Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle for the weekly wrap. Yes, ouch, ouch. And our special year in review edition. And that's why I believe the invitation was black tie optional. You opted for the black tie, Tim. I'm, my usual dungarees and everything like that. Thanks for rising to the occasion. I appreciate it.
I thought I would make it look legitimate.
You do. I mean, so we're not pretending that it is actual New Year's Eve right now, I guess. But do you have a New Year's Eve gig, Mr. Kelly's, Punchinello's? Where are you going to be?
I actually have I haven't done like a New Year's in about 10 years. It's quite possibly the worst situation to do comedy anywhere, because they pour out the champagne splits, hand out noisemakers, and now here's your comic.
Oh, brother. Yeah. It's got to be really tough.
By the way, don't use those noisemakers until midnight, okay? Those bright, colorful, shiny horns in front of all of you. Please don't blow them until the comic is finished, will you?
Yeah. So I rose to the occasion. Have you noticed my microphone here? How do you like that?
That's a
now,
big one.
it's not actually connected to anything. And I believe Chris, our producer, said that, he wanted me to use this like Conan and Johnny Carson did. Were their mics just props too? I mean, kill the illusion for me. I thought those were real mics, like, Edward R. Murrow had used.
I always thought so too, until Robin Williams was on once, and he started jumping at the boom mic that was over his head, right, like it was a treat in a SeaWorld pen.
Isn't it amazing how many movies, they go through post-production and everything, and you see the boom mic hanging right over Meryl Streep's head in Sophie's Choice, and it really wrecks the illusion of it. But anyway, this microphone, I noticed, I did some carbon-14 dating on it, and because I pulled it out of my closet, and it has the initials of WKQX on there, and that's probably the only station in Chicago that I never worked for. But they might have been owned by the same company that owned the Loop at the time. So WKQX, whoever you're owned by now, I think it might be even Christian Radio, I'm not sure. Come in and grab this microphone from me in the middle of this broadcast.
So they didn't walk you out of that place with security and a Xerox box?
That was one of the few places I wasn't walked out of. I was walked out of Channel 32. Okay, so we've got the top 10 stories in reverse order for 2021. And the 10th story, as voted on by Chris, our producer, was the pandemic. And next to that, he put ZZZZZZ. It's like the snore. So nothing really interests him. I mean, what can you say about the pandemic? It seems like we've gone full circle, or Biden has turned into Trump, because now the last thing that he said was, well, let the states take care of it. And I'm thinking, you want to apply that to like abortion, just about everything else? Because we're all Republicans now, as somebody said after Ronald Reagan was shot at. I've
noticed this variant of the COVID virus seems to have about as much enthusiasm behind it as the release of Airbud 12.
Well, the great thing about this is it Omicron? Is it Omicron? Is it capitalized? Is it not? It's the ideal. It's the bug actually adapted to civilization. The bug doesn't want to kill us. It wants to survive in its host. So It said, okay, just give me a little room, a little space here. I'm not going to kill you. And then you're immune to COVID. But of course, we're still panicking, and the Chicago public schools will, any excuse that they have to shut down and go remote and pretend like, they're us right now, doing everything via Zoom, they'll use. But I was at a wedding on December 11th downtown, and it's a bunch of liberals were there, and my wife and I, making the long trip in, and we dutifully, because when with the woke, do as the Wokians do, we brought our masks. Okay, guess what? Nobody was required to wear a mask, and somebody actually had COVID. I don't think anybody caught it, or if we did, we were asymptomatic. But I mean, we could go through the examples of hypocrisy until through a long meal at the French Laundry with Gavin Newsom. So it's.
Did you find out? Did you find out there that they had COVID? I mean, did they announce it? They go, "Oh, by the way, I have COVID, so you might want to wear a mask."
During rapid tests at this at this wedding.
You were tested before you went into the function?
No. I believe during the ceremony, the minister did say, "I now pronounce you having
exposed."
Yeah, exposed to COVID. But other than that, nothing happened. So my prediction for the new year is that I'm either going to get a 4th shot because I've been boosted. I assume you have too, right?
Boosted? No,
you didn't get a booster.
No, I think that that Omicron is probably safer than the booster at this point. So that's what I'm hoping to catch Omicron.
That is cutting the baby in half or something. I mean, that's pretty judicious on your part because you did get 2 vaccinations, but then you didn't go for the booster because you think it's better to get Omicron.
Yeah. I believe in the peace treaty that Omicron signed with the general public.
I like your thinking there. Well, we got boosted. So I'm thinking I'm either going to wind up in 2022 getting a 4th shot, or take your pick. I'm going to get 2 birdies in 1 round of golf. I can't decide which one is going to happen. But that's the limitation of my predictions. All right, so that's enough with that. The number 9 story. Number 9. Of course, and I know you agree with me, Mark Giangreco was fired by Channel 7. You're saying, who the hell is Mark Giangreco? Well, he was only making like north of $1 million for a bunch of years. And of course, I'm envious because I wasn't making that kind of money as a sportscaster in Chicago ever. But he was fired. And the funny thing about that was a couple of years ago, he was suspended because he tweeted, because, he was frustrated being a sportscaster on Channel 7 where you really can't get to say much. It's very limiting. So, everybody goes on Twitter and puts their foot in their mouth. And so
Sure.
He said that Trump voters were simpletons. And he got suspended by Channel 7 for saying that. And then just this year, he talks about his colleague, Cheryl Burton, the news anchor, and says that she could play a ditz in some TV show or whatever. And let me tell you, he wasn't trying to say that she was like Gracie Allen and was a great actress. What he was saying was, she's a ditz. It's not going to be a stretch for her to play that. And so he winds up getting fired for that. So a couple of years ago, he is suspended for criticizing Trump voters. And just a few months ago, he was fired for sounding like a Trump voter. So I just, I enjoy the irony of that. So he will, I don't know if he's going to be in a tux or not. He was fired by Channel 7. And of course, every New Year's, he and Janet Davies of Channel 7 would bring in the new year. It was like for the last 20 years they did it. And there they are.
Getting trashed. That's one thing I've always noticed. By the time it's New Year's in Chicago, they're trashed.
Yeah. So unlike you, he was brave enough to be on television in front of maybe even millions to kiss Janet Davies at the stroke of midnight. Well, both of them have been fired. She was let go this year, and they're both shrewd move by Channel 5. Channel 5 is going to have them for their New Year celebration, but only on tape. They're not going to actually ring in the new year. They'll be on tape, and they probably have already taped the bit that they're going to do. And I'm just thinking, with the latest Omicron hysteria that we have, Channel 7 should probably superimpose masks over their face. Channel 5 should superimpose masks over their face because they're going to be. They might even be kissing for all we know. So just trying to look out for the public health. So all right, that's number 9. Let's go to number 8 and let's roll the tape on Nicki Minaj.
Million followers. Okay, I have 2 million followers. You have 22 million followers on Twitter. For you to use your platform to encourage our community to not protect themselves and save their lives, my God, sister, you could do better than that. You got that platform. It's a blessing. It's a blessing that you got that people listen to you. And they listen to you more than they listen to me. For you to use your platform to put people in the position of dying from a disease they don't have to die from. Oh my God, as a fan, as a hip hop fan, as somebody who was your fan, I'm so sad that you did that. So sad that you did that, sister. Oh my God.
Well, so that's MSNBC's Joy Reid, the former homophobe. I think she used to But
Well, you can do. You can. You can. They can cure homophobia now.
Okay, sure.
They have programs
Absolutely.
that they
Absolutely.
immerse you into.
It's not genetic like homosexuality. Homophobia can be cured. So anyway, what she was referring to was Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend. His testicles had swelled as
The size of pinatas, I understand.
and they weren't beating them apparently with a stick. And I think he was from Trinidad. And she claimed that it had happened after he had gotten the vaccine. Now, of course, this is a case, of course, of the logical fallacy of post hoc ergo propter hoc, which you can use in your New Year's Eve bit at any time. It'll stop them from tooting their horns. But anyway, so and what a great excuse it is to leave the bride at the altar. I'm sorry, my testicles are swollen from the vaccine. One of the great excuses they've ever had. So,
are you trying to smuggle puppies onto this flight? Oh no.
So Nikki said that she had to do her own research on the vaccine, which doesn't make her an epidemiologist, but certainly qualifies her to be the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. Okay. All right. And on that note, okay, so that was the number 8 story of 2021. When we come back,
got 7 more.
Oh, we've got 7 more stories. The founder of Snopes was guilty of plagiarism, which I don't think is the worst crime in the world. And then, of course, we got to talk about January 6th. We're coming up on the anniversary. It's a red letter day in American history. So all kinds of things. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap Year in Review edition. I'll put on my black tie during break.
David Mickelson, the co-founder of the fact-checking website Snopes, has long presented himself as the arbiter of truth online, a bulwark in the fight against rumors and fake news. But he has been lying to the site's tens of millions of readers. A BuzzFeed News investigation has found that between 2015 and 2019, Mickelson wrote and published dozens of articles containing material plagiarized from news outlets such as The Guardian and the LA Times.
Was it an actual human that did that story? Or is that a Snopes concoction? Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap Year in Review edition, and the powers that be have decided that the 7th most important story of 2021 was whether the creator of Snopes was a plagiarist. So, I object to that even being top 25, but whatever. I don't control this. I've never controlled anything. I've got a fake microphone here. I've got a partner who's dressed to kill and has nowhere to go except to sit and watch me. But what a beautiful fake set behind you, Tim.
Isn't that lovely?
It is beautiful. So, this David Mickelson, first, I don't mind that the head of a fact check organization is a plagiarist. All I want to make sure is that everything that he plagiarized was factually correct. That's the crime. It's like Aroldis Chapman. I didn't care that he was a wife beater as long as he didn't have a crime against baseball. I'm kidding about that. I did care about that. Okay. So anyway,
I don't think plagiarism is the offense it used to be. Now it's just acting presidential.
But totally. I mean, you think of Biden, and thanks for teeing that one up for me. He, if you're going to be a plagiarist, at least be a serial plagiarist. Don't be a one-off. Be like Mickelson. Be like Biden. He started early in his career at Syracuse Law School. He plagiarized Kinnock, the guy across the pond. He plagiarized him. I think Corn Pop is original, isn't it? Am I wrong about that?
I have not dug into that. I imagine he could have taken that from someone else.
Yeah, plagiarism, as I've always said, is the sincerest form of flattery. So, and you can use that line, and don't give me.
Yeah, I don't know about that Corn Pop story. I can't see Biden getting a bicycle chain and getting tough with someone.
But you got to give Biden credit though. I mean, he's a wonderful fabulist. I mean, you're sitting there, I mean, he's in a debate in front of millions of people with Trump, and he makes up this story, probably on the spot, about his father in the 1950s seeing a gay couple standing on a corner kissing each other, and his father saying "love is love," and of course that happened in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I mean, and he says it with a straight face, and it doesn't matter that he lies. It's wonderful. I think he's got a wonderful imagination. So anyway, all right, that's the number 7 story. Let's go to the number 6 story in our year in review, and that happens to be, of course, if it's number 6, it's January 6th, and it's tagged here by Chris. I don't want to say that Chris, our producer, is a little bit biased, but he says, January 6th and finding out that federal informants, look how I'm actually trying to talk into the fake microphone. Boy, once a broadcaster, always one. January 6th and finding out that federal informants were on the ground, also the sham commission election fraud. So already, our view supposedly is that there is nothing wrong with what happened on January 6th. Okay, that's fine. It's and I think so. You think, and you could disagree with me, Tim. I mean, you're not Ed McMahon here. You don't have to say you are correct, sir, to everything.
No. I think there were more federal agents there on January 6th than there were at the FBI company picnic.
Okay. I'll grant you that, and I'll grant you that, not everybody should be locked up. My friend Julie Kelly has been writing about this all along, and she gets to be on Tucker, and I'm kind of envious of the whole deal. But, I mean, if you look at the big picture, see, I don't like it. I didn't like it when I wanted to say Tammy Faye, our senator, Tammy Faye Duckworth, when she said, you know what, I got to think it over whether we should tear down Mount Rushmore. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if anybody attacked Mount Rushmore and did more than, that Don Martin cartoon in Mad Magazine once, where they had the guy who would clip the tree branches from the nose that looked like nose hairs from the nostrils of George Washington. Anything more than that was an assault on Mount Rushmore, and I would, shoot to kill anybody who did something like that. So I think the Capitol matters as well, even if Nancy Pelosi, even if I did get I admit it was a guilty, pleasure when I saw that guy in the face paint standing at Nancy Pelosi, and he was just standing there, And so, I mean, I giggled when it happened, but it wasn't the right thing to do. I remember in real time that I saw people were tweeting about this and saying the Capitol's been attacked. So I'm thinking, oh, well, here it is. I mean, and I called up my daughter and I said, well, so do they have guns? And she said, no. I said, oh, so it was like,
what do they have? What do they have? Shields and buffalo horns.
I mean,
here's the thing. Here's the
like
thing,
mascots for the Minnesota Vikings.
Not a single statue got pulled down in Statuary Hall. Was it really a riot? Can you call it a riot if no statues fall?
I don't want to get into the actual facts because we're just fun-loving people, but I don't want to get into the whole thing with whether Ashley Babbitt was a hero or not. I don't think she was. I'm sorry she was, a little bit overzealous and had to be shot. But I think at some point there was reasonable apprehension among members of Congress that they could be attacked. So does that mean that they should go to jail forever? No.
I like the idea that the congressman might have thought they got attacked. That's how you get well-behaved congressmen.
Well, look, I remember when George Bush had a shoe thrown at him and he ducked. And I mean, that was really, he was athletic. But that's still only a shoe. And it wasn't Nikita Khrushchev's shoe that was banging on the table. So anyway, I just, at some point there is going to be So did we ever decide? I remember when we interviewed that guy from Arizona was talking about the Arizona audit. I mean, we've never really come up with any solid evidence, and I know you're going to disagree with me on this, that the election was stolen. If anybody was trying to steal it, it was probably Trump, and he was kind of all thumbs at that as well. No, there was never a smoking gun. There was never the aha, here it is. It's aha, here it is. On which side? That's what I mean. Look, I'm all in favor of making sure that if people can get in line for COVID rapid tests, why can't they get in line to vote? It seems like part of our ritual.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think we should go old school, on paper, in a ballot box, and you
property
with voter
owners,
ID.
You got to be a property owner. Okay.
and you get your finger dipped in the inkwell on the way out, so you can only do it once.
And we should have a, probably a literacy test and a poll tax, just to. You, of course, remember when Rahm Emanuel, who finally did get in the middle of the night, got named the ambassador to Japan. And why did they make him the ambassador?
Well, he wanted it because he wanted to feel tall for once.
Exactly. Cha-ching. So, but the thing is I remember Rahm actually had a de facto disenfranchisement of. He was a latter-day Jim Crow mayor because he disenfranchised all of the black voters in the primary in 2015 by squelching the Laquan McDonald tape so that nobody would know it before he faced Chuy Garcia and almost lost even without that tape having been disclosed. Anyway,
I'm not going to go as far as a literacy test, but it's always been my contention that 100% voter participation equals President Kardashian.
Or Nikita Khrushchev. The communist. It's mandatory to vote. It was always mandatory to vote you had to give it 110%. All right, so that's number 6. The number 5 story of 2021: violence in Chicago, and Lori Lightfoot caving and asking the feds for help after mocking Trump for suggesting it. How about that?
Well, Trump might have actually succeeded. I mean, that's she'll ask Biden now because she knows that he's not going to be able to fix anything.
Well, Biden just said in another context, in the COVID context, and we mentioned that earlier, that I can't do anything. Let the states do it. So isn't this a problem for, it's not the problem for the feds. It's a problem for,
it's Pritzker's problem.
For the states. It's a problem for the city of Chicago. And of course, why, if you can't ask Trump for it, why do you have to ask Biden for it? And meanwhile, Biden, of course, is way too busy. Did you see the picture of him on the beach? I think ABC took this. In silhouette, he's on the beach with his wife, the fake doctor, and a dog. They're on a beach. They're wearing masks on a beach. I mean, when he's rubbing the shoulders of somebody,
well, he's
not wearing a mask. But when he's at the beach, he's wearing a mask. So
it is Delaware. It's those
well,
those alewives tend to wash up.
It's the alewives, or I'm wondering if the waves are a gazillion droplets of COVID that could infect him. Other than that, I just don't understand why you need to wear a mask. But
maybe they fed the new dog too much pepperoni. Maybe.
All right. Coming up in our next block, we go to the 4th top story. Oh, we're getting this countdown going, and this one is about the Cuomo brothers. They have to split the top story, and we've got to worry about the credibility of Chris Cuomo, like he had any before he committed the ethics violation. But we'll get to all that and some honorable mentions as well on our weekly wrap year-end review coming up.
I do kiss people on the forehead. I do kiss people on the cheek. I do kiss people on the hand. I do embrace people. I do hug people, men and women. I do on occasion say, ciao Bella. On occasion, I do slip and say sweetheart or darling or honey.
Now, I did not hear him talking, but one picture is worth 1,000 smooches, I guess. Did we get that?
I believe he was reading from Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
It's Where Would You Like to Be Kissed? I think is all the places you can kiss. I think.
There you go. So
with a goat on a boat.
the Cuomo brothers don't interest me that much because and then of course his brother gets fired, so it was a twofer. Because I really don't watch CNN that much. I kind of gave up on CNN when Don Lemon. First of all, Don Lemon used to work at Channel 5 in Chicago, a place where I was a model employee at and still got let go. He was fired because he just refused a couple of assignments, and he could do that because he was Don Lemon and he was going to catapult to CNN. So I'm a bit envious that way. But remember when those airplanes started missing, the Russian jetliners or whatever, and they had Don Lemon actually asked an expert, and he'd been on for a long time and everything, but he'd actually asked an expert, was it possible that the plane had gone into a black hole? And so and that's where CNN is disappearing into right now, because I understand that the guy who owns the Discovery Channel, he's about the only guy who's made, well, he's not the only guy who's made a lot of money, but that's HGTV, and it's all this Red America kind of stuff, but that isn't so political, but more culturally Red America, suburbanites and all that, that he is going to buy Time Warner, which owns CNN, and then he's going to change CNN because it's lost its way. The ratings have tanked, and this is just the tip of the iceberg with Cuomo brothers.
It's Chris has got to be saying, well, maybe if I were masturbating on the air, I would be able to keep my job here.
Well, yeah, right. He was caught with his pants down in a certain respect, but only metaphorically, not like Jeffrey Toobin. But yeah, it's something that I am not all that concerned about, because it's basically an also-ran network now anyway, and it's looking for some footing. So, good riddance to both of them. That was the number 4 story. The number 3 story was the Jussie Smollett, pardon my Monty Python requisite imitation. The number 3 story, and we got to twin that with the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, and I got to tell you, I'm not normally a betting man, Tim, but I had the Daily Double. I had not guilty verdicts for Kyle Rittenhouse and Smollett. I know I was going out on a limb there. And then, of course, I lost the whole thing on the Smollett. And the reason I lost the Smollett thing was everybody's got to believe in some kind of conspiracy theory. Like I used to work with Dan Proft at WLS, and he believed that Jay Cutler had actually should have come out for the second half of the NFC Championship game against Green Bay. The guy's knee was wrecked. No, he should have put dirt on. So everybody's got some sort of conspiracy theory, and I believed, because somebody told me, and I'm just credulous. That the story was, and that they were going to present this as a defense, that one of the Nigerian brothers had an affair with Jussie, and there was evidence of that. But that's looked down upon in Nigeria, and the older brother wanted the younger brother who had the affair. Are you following this? Are you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm right there. There.
Are you thinking of your routine for New Year's Eve, because you're drinking the night right now? We're still, we're not at the countdown yet. Don't worry about the horns tooting and drowning out your routine. So I thought that what Miss Court Reporter, could you read back what I had said before? So I thought that the younger brother, to prove his mettle, was going to engage in this attack with his older brother on Jussie, because I just love the way that Jussie protested his innocence. He's still probably saying he's innocent, and he was found guilty. But yeah, the evidence didn't seem to come in that way. Now, if you just read the Tribune stories on it, it was way too even-handed, because you'd think, oh, Jussie sounded like he acquitted himself well on the stand, but that's not the way the jury looked at it.
Well, I think the jury pool was tainted. At first, I thought he might get away with it just because just the hate against Trump supporters is so great that I was thinking some jurors would say, well, yeah, maybe he made it up, but it's important that we
it's what Stephen Colbert, when he used to be good, would call truthiness.
Yeah.
It's not really true. It's just like George Bush the second. He really didn't do those things, and they made up the story, the 60-minute story that got Dan Rather fired. But it's the kind of thing that could have happened.
Right. So I thought a lot of the juries would have gone not guilty in that interest. But then I thought about it. No, Dave Chappelle tainted the jury pool after he did his Juicy Smollett routine. it destroyed him. That's all you
Were
needed.
they asked about that in voir dire, as we call it? Were they asked about that? Maybe they should have. Well, anyway, all right. So that was a bummer for me that justice was served. But the Rittenhouse case, it's so fascinating that even after he was found not guilty, there were so many liberals who just couldn't take it that they were still repeating things that they knew were not facts,
Right.
like the fact that Rittenhouse, excuse me, brought a rifle over the border. And by the way, Antioch and Illinois and Kenosha, Wisconsin are like this close to each other.
It's a suburb.
I'm wondering if Comiskey Park and Wrigley Field are farther apart than Antioch and Kenosha. I'm not sure, but they're right next to each other. Plus, he didn't bring the gun over the border. He got the gun in Wisconsin, and his father lives in Wisconsin. But none of that matters. He was a vigilante. that was the whole thing. I mean,
I was shocked. I was shocked at first, and that one kind of surprised me too, because I thought when he got the not guilty verdict, I thought that there were, I thought that Antifa was going to learn what the price of gas is now. I thought they were going to tear up Kenosha.
Yeah,
and
right.
then, but nothing happened in
No,
Kenosha. There were protests in Portland. There were protests in Chicago, and it occurred to me. It said, "Wait a minute, the judge probably gave him his gun back." It's like, yeah, we're gonna make Kenosha pay. They gave him his gun back.
Pointed his gun at the jury. Never do something like that. But the telltale sign was when the jury did not get its instructions from Maxine Waters. She didn't say anything like 2 days when they were retiring to reach a verdict. So kind of knew that it wasn't going to go the prosecution's way. But yeah, so speaking of Chappelle, we got our honorable mentions right now for we're not down to the number 2.
Oh, we're going to save the top 2 for the next segment.
And what the first one is that Kamala used actors to humanize her in a commercial, which is, well, Biden uses a fake White House set, so what's the big deal?
Well, it kind of reminds me of how I felt about Winehouse. If you can make Harry Winehouse think that Harvey Weinstein, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you can make Harvey Weinstein.
Talking about Amy Winehouse or Sheldon Whitehouse.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right.
If you can make Harvey Weinstein think that you're attracted to him, you're an Oscar-winning actress. And I think it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same thing. If you're gonna humanize Kamala, pretty good actor.
I just kind of expect that from her. I hated the way she took down Brett Kavanaugh in the hearing. So, I don't know what the big deal is over her, but yeah, apparently she's very, very unpopular. So that's Biden's insurance, I guess. So then there's AOC's Chick-fil-A dress. Remember that? Which was I think she looked very attractive in that. And, she wasn't wearing a mask. The help was wearing masks. That was at the Met Ball. But that's common nowadays. The help has to wear masks, and the untaxed
right. Go without
and
masks.
What was wonderful was that the whole BBB got torn asunder and it isn't going to be brought back. So that's a debacle of the Biden administration. And so wonderful for her, wonderful for the collapse of the squad, at least for the moment. And then getting back to Chappelle, there was the whole, an honorable mention, his whole Netflix special. And of course, I guess I'm envious of Chappelle because I've never had, a Netflix special and haven't been paid hundreds of millions of dollars to do it. The thing
$23 million in advance before he even submitted the tape. It was
he's Chappelle.
Yeah.
And you're playing Punchinellos on New Year's Eve. So,
for 23 bucks at a chicken dinner, mister.
So, but the thing about Chappelle is that, I remember once, in one of his routines that he got paid millions of dollars for, he said that, hey, why do I have to pay for the kid if I don't get a choice in whether he's aborted or not? And, that's like kind of an old, conservative song that the men don't have any stake in it. But, it's Chappelle saying it and it's cool. So that kind of bugged me a little bit. But of course, the reason he got into trouble was because he took J.K. Rowling's side on transgenders. And, he doesn't want to see a man join the women's swimming team and set all kinds of women's records. And that, of course, is where we are in our wonderful society in 2021.
Yeah, men should not join women's swimming teams outside the Eastern Bloc.
Remember when the German swimming teams, that was the worst thing in the world. And now we've not only legalized it, we've enshrined it by turning men into women. But I won't get into trouble for that. All right, coming back for our final segment, we will get the top 2 stories of 2021 into Afghanistan. Remember that? No, it's nobody cares about Afghanistan women. It is Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap, our Year in Review edition.
People come up to them to pose for photographs. They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time.
That's a little oxymoronic, but actually that was Clarissa Ward. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap Year in Review edition. That's why Tim is dressed to the nines, because he thinks we're going somewhere. We are going to the story.
We're not going to party with Mark G and Greco tonight.
I was going to kiss you at midnight, but
I'm hoping.
But Clarissa Ward actually gave CNN some credibility. She reported on what was going on in Afghanistan, and much to the detriment of the Biden administration's reputation. I think the Biden administration will be remembered in part for those people grasping to the wheel of the airplane as the planes were leaving. And I know that, our attention span in America is very short. We're wondering if the Super Bowl is going to be played or there's going to be too many football players in COVID-19 protocol. But,
I believe Hunter actually called him that night and said, geez, Dad, I can pull out better than that.
Oh boy. Anyway, so she reported on this, and I don't think this is in and of itself going to do in the Biden administration, but it was the first big bad thing to really happen. The honeymoon was over for Biden at that point. He had screwed the pooch on this. And even right now, we've got the rapid testing failure. He had come in saying that he was going to, he was going to get rid of the virus, of course. And they promised all this testing, and they haven't come through. So it's a lot of incompetence on their part, and I don't think America particularly likes it. It's polling terribly right now, and it looks like it's going to be a landslide for the Republicans coming up this year. But I haven't thought about. I've got to admit, I haven't thought about Afghanistan women in quite a while, until I was my memory was jostled by this top 10 list that we're doing right now, and I feel bad about that because they are suffering.
Clarissa Ward, I think she got a real bad rap because for that one remark because she went on after that. We thought it was going to be the same thing that happened in Kenosha with the mostly peaceful protesters while the cars are burning behind them. We thought it was going to be more like that, but no. She actually went and she did some decent reporting. Yeah. She hung back. She was like one of the last people to leave the ground. She stayed back. She did some reporting, and it was because of her that we saw a lot of the failure.
No, she was very good, and what she said right there was actually true. They said it, but they're very nice the way they say it. It's the machine gun inside the velvet glove. Is what it was. So that is the number 2 story. Now we got a couple of honorable mentions here. That was number 2. Some honorable mentions before we get to the number 1 story. Of course, who can forget? You think you forgot Afghanistan? Can you forget that our very own Chicago Sky won the WNBA championship? And all I remember from that is that Lori Lightfoot was in the crowd with her husband, Paul Vallis.
Proud.
No, I'm kidding. She was with her wife. She was there, I think, with her wife. But she was there, and the big thing was that she wasn't wearing a mask. Everybody else was in a mask in the crowd. But Lori Lightfoot, I guess there's an exemption. If you're being cheered by the crowd, you can take off your mask inside an arena. But there are fewer than 25,000 people there.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the CDC says the virus is only spread when it's at a level of 5 feet or higher.
Right.
So.
But of course, now you're talking about the Omicron. This was back in the Delta days, if you recall. It's hard to keep your variants straight. I understand that, but that's an honorable mention there. The Chicago Sky.
I think what's going to be great for women's basketball is that the transitioning women can now join.
Oh, absolutely.
It would be a great place. It'd be a great place for retired basketball players. Michael Jordan, maybe he could get back in.
Absolutely. And the other day, Chris Collinsworth, because they were killing time, Dallas was killing the Washington football team. And so they didn't know what to talk about. And they were talking, there was some woman coach on the Washington football team, and they were talking about how it looks like women's football in high school is going to be a really big thing in the future. And of course, it will be as long as you allow the transgenders to play on the high school football team. So it's a win-win for everybody.
You know what's going to save women's sports? Men.
As usual. So another honorable mention story, and this was provided by Chris, our producer, so I bear no responsibility for it. But do you recall that story about the gentleman from the Netherlands who put 15 eggs up his keister? Yeah. You remember that story, or have you tried to forget it?
Yeah, it was. I remember it was one of Chris's favorites. So yeah. of course, it would make him into the top 10.
It's more about Chris than it says about the actual story. Anyway, the guy actually looked up the story today just to show that I did some homework, and the guy had taken some GHB, and I didn't know what that was. I thought he was the 43rd president of the United States, but GHB is a drug, and he and his partner, who were drugged at the time, made these eggs. Now, originally I thought, they put these eggs with the shells. No, they hard-boiled them and they peeled them. So that's no big deal, right? You peel the eggs. And
I remember we used to do a trick like that in science class. You put a candle in a milk bottle and put an egg on top, and then it goes, and the egg actually sucks into the milk bottle.
Well,
would really irritate the milkman because he would lose the deposit on the bottle.
I mean, every garden variety magician can take an egg out of his mouth here, but stick the other end. But I was thinking that this guy, they must have made 24 eggs, I'm imagining, and this guy took 15. He was kind of hogging him and left only 9 for his partner. Anyway, he wound up in the hospital, believe it or not.
That's more than a full carton. Yeah, actually more than a.
He had to be operated.
They only sell them by the dozen. So, I mean, did he have ambition when he started?
Well, they had two dozen, but he took 15 of them. And
stopped at 15?
He was kind of a hog there. But, so he had to be operated on. And look, I mean, sometimes you have to rupture a couple of intestines to make an omelet, as Orwell said. So,
but at the next wedding, he was going to do a really authentic chicken dance.
So anyway, that's an honorable mention, and one more honorable mention, I think. Yes, according to Chris, it was that Tom Skilling's dog's death made Robert Feeder, the media columnist, column, but the beginning of our show, and we sent a press release to Rob Feeder, never made it into his column. So Tom Skilling's dog dying did, but we did not make it in. And a logical explanation, of course, is that Robert Feeder hates me, and he has every reason to, because I constantly criticize him on Twitter. But so I don't blame him. Actually, he's just protecting his franchise. I get it.
See, it seems if he really hated you, he would have put the announcement for the show underneath the dog death.
Okay.
Right. Tom Skilling's dog died. And Bruce Willis has a new show.
You just saw the mention there of the Gian Greco thing is the top story in media looking back on a ditzy year. And just recently, I reiterated my criticism of Rob because Gian Greco was taken off the air. He's one of the most popular sportscasters or newscasters in Chicago history. He was taken off the air in January, at the end of January, and for 5 weeks, Rob Feeder, who's been doing on this beat for 4 decades, couldn't find out the reason that he was off. And then finally, it was because of that ditzy comment, which we mentioned earlier there. So, yeah, being a media columnist is tough. So I've got to be grown up and expect that. So now we're
that brings us to number one, doesn't it?
Number one, yes, you are correct, sir. And can I have a drum roll, please? And here we go.
Granddaughter. Somebody granddaughter.
And how about Penelope?
Well, Penelope, she's only 2, so I think she'd be happy with just about 8.
Oh, that's great.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful that you have a 2-year-old.
Well,
have a Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful Christmas.
and by the way, you guys have to be in bed by 9 o'clock, and asleep between 9 and 12, or he doesn't show up.
This isn't to you, Jared. This is to the kids.
That's right.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Well, yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well.
Oh,
Merry
thank you.
Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree. Hey, by the way, where are you in Oregon? Where's your home?
We're President Biden is so oblivious.
Yeah.
I would think
Did you hear it? Did you hear how the guy just disappeared? It almost sounded like the Secret Service came up behind his house.
I feel bad that President Biden is oblivious to this, and I feel bad for the old Howard Stern, who would have loved it. I mean, the only better thing was this guy had yelled "Baba Booey." Because I remember when Princess Di died, and CNN had this coverage, and Lyndon Souls, the beautifully coiffed anchorman, was anchoring this, and he took the call from a guy who claimed that he was in the Paris Tunnel from New York, and he's talking like Woody Allen, and I'm so nervous and everything. Lyndon Souls is trying to bring him along, and I saw the tragedy and everything. I mean, he was on for like 5 minutes, and then at the end of which he goes, "Baba Booey!" And so the resurrection, the old Howard Stern, right there with a nice call, a little phony phone call bit to President Biden. So that is let's go, Brandon is the number one story of 2021.
And it's also Brandon is the second least popular name for new babies.
And what is the first most unpopular? Hitler? What is it?
Karen.
There we go. And on that note, we wish everybody a happy New Year. Don't forget, Tim is going to be at Punchinello's and Mr. Kelly's New Eve. Tim, as always, it was great. That's our top 10 list on the weekly wrap, and we will see you next year.
Happy New Year, Bruce.
Happy New Year, Tim.